All right, transcribing, recording started. Cool. All right, I'm just gonna quickly get started with my welcome. Yeah, hi guys. Welcome to our GenAI in FinTech Meetups third virtual event in 2025. Tonight's session topic is about sharing and discussing some really interesting FinTech use cases for using AI versus GenAI technology. For those of you who are new to this meetup group, my name is Kurt Young. I'm the founder of this GenAI in FinTech meetup and also your host for this evening. I'm a digital product manager by trade who is very passionate about lean product management. For those of you guys who don't know what it is, happy to having some private discussions spoke about that. That's my passion. And also I'm very interested in GenAI technologies application in the financial services industry, hence why I created this meetup community last year. GenAI in FinTech community is dedicated to discuss and share the latest trends, best practices, use cases, and also regulatory considerations for GenAI applications in the financial services industry in Australia and also globally. Before we kick off, I would like to start with the acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting here tonight. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and I extend that respects to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here tonight. Just a few housekeeping rules before we start. Please feel free to raise your questions in the chat section within the Google Meet, which will be monitored and addressed either during or after our guest speaker's presentation and demo. Please also mute yourself while either me or our guest speaker is presenting. And the session, as you can see, is currently being recorded for future learning and sharing purposes. One more exciting news before we officially kick it off. I would like to thank our event sponsor Oni Group for sponsoring two $20 digital Visa cards for tonight's event, which will be giving them away to the two most engaged audience by the end of this evening, chosen by our guest speaker, Julian. So make sure you stay all the way to the end and ask a lot of questions throughout the session to get the best chance to win. A quick intro to Oni Group. Established in 2006, Oni Group is a global Google Premier partner, headquartered in Sydney. They have quickly become one of the go-to partner for thousands of organizations around the globe for services and solutions across the full Google tech stack. Whether it's workforce transformation use cases in Google Workspace, building out data and AI solutions through Google Cloud, Gemini, or enhanced location intelligence services through Google Maps, there's someone at Oni Group who can help your organization with efficiently navigating the complex technology landscape. Whether you want to learn more about what Google has to offer, ready to jumpstart into a proof of concept, or maybe need some assistance in exploring some agentic AI use cases, Oni Group is currently offering complimentary discovery workshops to all organizations over the next few weeks to take your ideas to the next level. Please feel free to reach out to me if you're interested, and I can put you in touch with the right person in their team accordingly. All right, I think we've got enough people joining, and this is the moment we all have been waiting for. Without any further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our guest speaker tonight, Julian Bayard, a multi-award-winning fintech industry rising star in Australia. Julian is the founder and CEO at LoanOptions.ai, a leading fintech software provider and asset finance brokerage firm in Australia. With over 14 years of experience in the finance industry, Julian is passionate about using technology to simplify, streamline, and future-proof lending. After starting his career in finance broking and scaling multiple brokerages, he grew frustrated with the manual and outdated processes that has been slowing down both customers and the brokers. Combined his background in web and app development and his deep industry knowledge, Julian launched LoanOptions.ai back in 2020 to level the playing field for borrowers and giving brokers smarter and faster tools. As an early pioneer of AI in finance, he has led the development of cutting-edge AI models that bring unprecedented speed, transparency, and certainty to lending. And also, Julian bootstrapped LoanOptions.ai from day one, which is super impressive, and continued to push the boundaries of how GenAI can transform the lending experience for brokers and customers alike. He has also been recognized as a top 100 young entrepreneur nominee for his innovation and impact in this industry. Julian, I can keep going all night long about your amazing achievements, but we only got an hour, so over to you, please.
That is some introduction. Thank you, Kurt. Yeah, very grateful to be here. So today, I'm going to share my screen and get straight into it because there is a lot of content to cover, and I want to make sure that everybody gets something out of today. So I'm going to do my very best to walk you through, so some practical uses and when you should choose between AI and Gen AI. And rather than tell you how you should do it in your business, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we've done it and tell you a bit of the story. So I guess what I'm hoping that everybody will get out of today is some practical uses of AI in your business outside of ChatGPT, because there's one thing that kind of frustrates me, having been building AI for 5 years, is when people talk about using AI in their business, the first thing they think of is only ChatGPT, but that is such a small subset of a subset of a subset when we're talking about AI. So we're going to get into that. We'll learn about other types of AI and which ones you might be able to use in your business. And obviously, your business is going to be very different to ours. When is the right time to use AI, Gen AI, or just a traditional software development solution, a more deterministic approach? It's not always a good time to use AI for the sake of using AI. We'll talk about how we used AI, tech, and automation to transform our business, and you'll be able to see those results and how it can transform yours, and then where I see AI going and the disruption to our industry specifically, but more broadly, the disruption to basically any industry. And then, of course, I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. I am an open book. Those who know me know that I have been building this business in public and, probably declaring and disclosing way more than most founders are willing to for the last 5 years. August 1st, we turned 5 as a business. So, really grateful to be here. Kurt gave me a really great sort of introduction, but the short version of that is I left school, started studying web and app development. I was tech obsessed, loved researching emerging technologies. I also needed to work full time, so I landed in asset finance, which is everything non-property lending. So cars, boats, equipment, personal loans, business loans, everything except property is classified in the sort of loans industry as asset finance. I built and deployed an app on the Apple App Store when I was 18 or 19 years old. I've been in the asset finance industry now for 14 years, and I started building the prototype for what is now Loan Options in 2017, and scaled multiple businesses. I had a fairly successful early career. I'm 32 now, but I had a lot of experience by the time I was 23. Already had 5 years and run multiple larger size businesses. So I'm going to share this because I don't know how well everyone can see it, but essentially these are text messages from 2020 and 2021 where I was sending my email address, and it was at LoanOptions.ai, and people were telling me that the emails were bouncing, or should it be .au? Because the point is that in just 5 years, everything's changed. People had no idea what it was. The average consumer had no idea what AI was. Obviously, you have a lot of tech bros and tech sisters that were, right into it, but this was very, very niche, and especially in financial services, it was almost unheard of. So, fly through. Next one. I'm also going to point out that you need to keep an open mind when it comes to these technologies, because most people have no idea. This is a poll that I shared in 2023 where we were using voice agents to already, by the time I posted this poll, we'd been using it, and I already knew the preliminary results of using a voice agent to call our customers when they hadn't supplied their supporting documents after 24 hours. So they apply on our website, they partially complete an application or complete an application but don't provide the supporting documents. Our team calls them, requests it. They don't supply it within 24 hours. And basically this is what LinkedIn thought. 66% of LinkedIn thought it was a scam. They would not supply their documents, and that people would think it's a scam. The actual result of that is because we did a sort of a split test, like a medical trial style, where we had a control group versus the actual group, and the loans converted from that stage in terms of providing the supporting documents twice as well when the AI agent called them. So that's just to give you an idea. Most people don't know what they're doing, and don't be afraid to test these technologies in your business and do it in a small group and then expand that group. But make sure you have a way to split test it versus with and without the solution. So I'm going to talk and fly through some slides here, and there's not much content heavy. They're mostly just images and big numbers, but they're not to flex. I assure you. Those who know me know that I would do nothing of the sort, but it is to just give you an idea on the scale of how AI has helped our business, but also it will add weight to the presentation. So often I go to talks and there's an AI expert or there's someone on stage talking about something, and then you ask them what they've built with that specific thing that they're talking and claiming to be an expert on. And oftentimes, they haven't really built anything. They're just professional speakers. I'm not a professional speaker, so I apologize if this is not super polished and not what you were expecting. But I do have, real world experience, real world knowledge, and I'm more than happy to share it with all of you. So I hope nobody takes this part the wrong way. But this is how we started 5 years ago. It was a 2-by-3 meter office. And this is kind of where we are now. We have half of a floor in Rhodes. And our platform throughput in calendar year 2024 was over $1.3 billion worth of loans. Now, for context, these are not home loans, so $1.3 billion isn't a lot of homes, especially in Australia, especially in Sydney. But when you're talking about loan sizes of $15,000 to $35,000, $1.3 billion worth of application throughput is quite a lot. And then since inception in 2020, by the end of 2024, we'd exceeded 5 billion. In 2024, we processed over 60,000 applications, and obviously that number was quite significant compared to the total over 180 by the end of 2024. That number's now over 200,000, well over 200,000. We've settled over 10,000 loans, and that number is growing. And we've generated, as at the end of 2024, over $23 million in revenue. We have close to 2,000 partners with our white label technology. And some of our major partners include some of the household names that you might be able to see on here. Some of them are ASX listed companies. The car sales group, we've got a partnership with bike sales and boat sales. Tonight we have a partnership in place that we just got an agreement from Gumtree Group as well. So, this partnership and the major partners listed here are growing all the time. We won lots of awards, listed in the Deloitte Tech Fast 50, over 1,100 5-star perfect rating, 5-star rating. And so I'm only explaining that because some of the practical uses of technology will become evident as I get through this. But we're going to talk about this and what is AI? What is AI, and is it just ChatGPT? Of course it's not. So here's kind of the map of artificial intelligence, and you have these categories like deep learning, right? And then you've got neural networks, artificial neural networks, and then you've got large language models, which is a subset of neural networks and deep learning. And then you've got ChatGPT all the way up here. So ChatGPT is just this one little segment, but you've got all these other aspects of deep learning. And then you've got natural language processing, text classification, sentiment analysis, all kinds of stuff in there. Computer vision, so image recognition, object detection, OCR technology, optical character recognition, that kind of thing. Machine learning, supervised, unsupervised, people have heard people have heard that saying before. You have robotics, and for my industry, this is less interesting, but some lenders that don't have APIs available, we can use robotic process automation and things like that. Expert systems, so rules-based systems, inference engines, knowledge-based systems. There's swarm intelligence, cognitive computing, knowledge graphs, game playing. So if you've ever played chess against a computer, like that's technically AI as well. Recommender systems. So if you ever watch Netflix and it says, because you liked Happy Gilmore Part 2, we think you're going to like, something else, and it gives you the recommendation. That is AI. And the more you use it, the smarter these things get. Speech recognition, all that kind of stuff. And there's, this is not an exhaustive list. There's lots of other stuff, but I kind of want to map it down to how they sort of translate. So you've got AI, which is the broad category, and then machine learning is a subset of AI. Neural networks is a subset of machine learning. Deep learning is a subset of neural networks. Generative AI is a subset of deep learning, and large language models, which is like ChatGPT, is a subset of generative AI. There's all kinds of other generative AI. There's multimodal models. There's a whole range of other things, but Gen AI is there in the scheme of things. So there's different applications of AI. Again, not an exhaustive list, but there's data science, probability, insights, interpret your customer data. There's content creation. There's efficiency, so tools to streamline your workflow, summarize industry updates, give you back time in your day. There's proprietary business intelligence, so creating a lead score based on your historical conversions in your business to answer questions on a particular topic, run computations, whatever it might be. OCR technology, so optical character recognition to read documents and pre-fill data, and we're going to talk a little bit about that a bit later. Build procedures and processes that are based on best practices to allow you to scale your business. So you might know a certain way to do something, but you can use AI to stress test your own methodologies and see if there's a better one. You can create a go-to-market strategy. You can create flowcharts, diagrams, create transcripts of meetings and action items. Big one, create AI agents. We're going to get into that and show you the first step you should take before you start building AI agents. Create knowledge bases for building agents that your agents can then use your specific data and communication methods and tone of voice and all that kind of stuff. And then sales training and coaching, as well as right now on this Zoom call, on this Google Meet, sorry, I'm using a noise cancellation app called Crisp.ai. So there's so many different things. There's 100 tools that that you could get lost in one day, and you're not even scratching the surface. So specifically, how do we use it? So we have a proprietary data set based on our historical clientele that predicts a probability of approval with each lender. So essentially what we did was we built a credit decisioning engine that we reverse engineered over 90 banks and lenders' credit policies. And the clients can, as they're applying, can see which products they match for and only see the products they're eligible for and get the real-time pricing based on their specific credit score, their specific circumstances. But further to that, if there was a whole range of lenders that were very similar in pricing, what was the likelihood that each of those lenders was going to say yes? Because ultimately, that's one of the primary reasons that people are applying for a loan, not just so they can find out what rate is the best in market, but which ones they're actually qualifying for. A lead score, so we can predict client intent and quality. We have 5,000 plus applications come through our platform every month. How do we prioritize that with the limited amount of staff that we have, and how do we make sure that we're providing great service? We have an AI agent BDM. So there's 90 lenders, and unfortunately, the one thing they all have in common is they don't always answer the phone. So how do we get their credit policies? And there's how do we vectorize them? How do we understand them so that we can write a natural language question, and our AI agent can go and fetch the answer across 90 different lenders. There's a bank statement score, so probability that that particular banking conduct based on how much gambling they have and cash withdrawals and all kinds of other things. So like from a credit perspective, the credit quality, predicting the client's credit score before we actually know it. I won't spend too much time on that because that's like a very niche use case, but we have knowledge bases for each client and each partner, so we can train our agents on how to communicate with each partner and each client, and recall conversations that were had. We have AI broker support functions. We also predict churn on referral partners and other types of partners based on historical data. We use OCR technology everywhere. It's such a great tool to scan a driver's license, scan a payslip, scan bank statements, interpret it. We've got an intelligence layer on top of that I'll talk about as well. We use it to intelligently allocate leads to the right broker. So how do we know that a lead coming from, say, bike sales? Well, we might have some brokers that convert really well on online leads versus other lead channels, and so it can intelligently allocate them. Fraud detection, spoke about noise cancelling. We use it to transcribe podcasts, and even this video will probably transcribe it. And we can use it across our website for SEO content and other things. We use ChatGPT, of course. Like I'm not a hater on ChatGPT. I just want to be clear about that. We use ChatGPT, and in some cases, we've used it to optimize SMS templates and email templates for maximum engagement. Like you have to understand, like what are you trying to get when you send an SMS? We're trying to get a response from the client, so we want to optimize for maximum engagement. The voice agent, so calling a client to follow up supporting documents. We look at call sentiment in our business. And we trained a model on successful phone calls that led to settle loans. And we benchmark every other phone call to provide sales coaching in real time. So one of our brokers gets off a phone call, and it might be an initial, qualification call, and it tells them, hey, you forgot to mention these 3 parts of our value proposition. Please ensure moving forward that you include these 3 important parts of our value proposition. And it's going to score them and give them a rating and, like I said, give them some coaching tips. So I want to talk a little bit about our tech journey. And again, for those that really want to look at the problems in detail, great, happy to kind of spend some time separately. But essentially, where the model for our business came about is that there were so many lenders and banks. We have I think it's 96. We have more than 90. We must be even closer to 100. There's so many banks and lenders. How do people navigate that? How do they know which lender is the most competitive? How do they know which ones aren't going to have hidden fees? How do they know which ones are going to say yes to them? So we built a tool and a piece of technology to overcome that. There's a lack of transparency. If you walk into a car dealership and you want to buy a car, if you ask them what the interest rate is, short of them when they have those advertised rate campaigns, and even them, they lack transparency. They basically dance around that question when you ask them what the interest rate and what the fees and charges are. They just don't want to answer it directly. There's lots of clunky forms and manual processes and complicated paperwork. Is really very inconsistent, slow. Each time a client applies, it puts a hit on their credit file with all the traditional legacy solutions. And then there's a lot of comparison sites that claim that they have the client's best interests at heart. They claim to be advocacy websites and provide, sort of good information. But basically, those offers are sold to the highest bidder, and they're misleading. So they have like a rate from 5.5% or rate from 6%, but almost nobody qualifies for those rates. The hoops that you have to jump through to qualify for that is very misleading. And so we ended up with, this where we are now, our solution that solves a lot of that. And that's kind of partially where the success has come from. There is a history though, right? And this is what I want to talk about when you need to take the first step when it comes to AI. It's very overwhelming. I've been in this space for a really, really long time. And I can tell you right now that even I get overwhelmed. I'm following all these different pages and all these different people that are, this new model and that new model, and this one's better and this one benchmarks better. And it's really, really hard to keep up. So you're not alone in there. Even somebody who's been doing it for a really long time finds it very hard to keep up. But you need to start somewhere. And that's kind of the story here, right? So our proof of concept started in an Excel spreadsheet in 2017. Iterate, does it work? Does it solve the problem? Yes. Can we predict an outcome? Yes. And so over time, this is before LoanOptions.ai even existed, 2017, right? There's no AI here. It was an Excel spreadsheet. But the concept was, if I build a big enough data set, and if I can, using a rules-based system, if I can, and formulas, if I can do that, then over time, AI can be better at accurately predicting the right outcome for a client. So that, when it led me to the first version of the platform in August 2020 when we launched. This is what it looked like. Sometimes when I look at the back end of that platform, I cringe, but that's okay, because everybody has this story, and this is version 1. And then we had version 2, and this was where we really leaped and grew our business, and it was based on the ability to white label this technology and embed it to create very unique partnerships and an embedded finance model. To now where we have version 3, which is pre-fills 80% of the client's data with a 3-step process, and we will get to that. But this is kind of some screenshots. I know what car I want. Search and autofill. Customer uploads their license, connects their bank account, uploads their payslip. AI reads, understands, contextualizes it all, and pre-fills all of their information, and then they can press submit. after seeing their loan results. We also solved some of the lack of transparency and long waiting times by building a loan tracker, and then it uses some predictive algorithms based on how long each lender takes at each particular stage to give the client, some visibility there. So you go, okay, yeah, that's all cool, but like, what does it actually translate to? So, over 2,000 partners, white label, it looks like this. We embed it on their website, and those clients can enjoy that. All different partner types. The Macca's ones, being funny. It's not real. The others are real. The actual real-time effects of having great technology that streamlines the client process is we now have an industry record for the fastest personal loan funded. And from the first, and this was featured on Channel 7, but the first inquiry came through at call at 3:30 p.m. and it was a registered nurse, provided all of her information, application, documents, everything. And so within 36 minutes from start to finish, not just she was approved, but she had the money in her account. So this included the assessment process. It included the review of her documents. It included the submission to the lender, the assessment from the lender, the approval from the lender, the documents issued to the client, signatures, back to the lender for settlement, all in 36 minutes. So that's like a real world example. And then the result of, continuous improvement and optimization and not thinking that we're going to launch with a perfect product is like version 2 had a 20 to 23% from lead to submission. And then when we introduced the autocomplete engine, which is how it pre-fills so much of the client's data, that skyrocketed from lead creation to full application submission. 41 to 47% of the time, our leads that we get are fully completed applications, which is phenomenal. So before we get to GenAI, the first models that we built in our business was before generative AI existed. We're talking 5 years ago, right? OpenAI as a company I don't even think existed, or if it did, it was, in fundraising stages. So LLMs didn't exist. Generative AI, for the most part, didn't really exist. It's sort of, or at least it wasn't useful. So we built some proprietary models that was on our own data set, and it would predict the probability of approval with an 85+% accuracy, probability of settlement, the lender prediction, out of 90, which one should they go with, highest likelihood of going through, and lead score. And these are machine learning, neural network, deep learning models, right? So we're not in the Gen AI space, but that's how we decided to pick that, right? It's like those were the best models that we built. We tried so many different ones. We built some in AWS's platform, some in Google Cloud platform, some in Azure. We tried them all. We looked at what was going to be giving us the most effective outcome. We now have an AI credit assessment. So and this is using generative AI, and so we can read and understand a document, and we have this AI credit assessor that is trained on and has knowledge of how to assess a loan, and it's looking at all the documents, all the data, and coming back with specific responses based on do they have undisclosed liabilities, do they have payslip manipulation, do they have a whole range of other things, and so that's just another example. We later launched a 5-minute home loan application. I am going to do a live demo of this just so people can see how it functions, but 3-step process. Upload your ID, connect your bank account, upload your payslip, and then it can pre-fill. So we had to build some underlying technology to make all of this work. And so when people are excited to solve a problem and build a product in the market, they're usually focusing on this top 20%. And that is like the flashy features, clean user interface, powerful tools that solve a problem. But before you can actually do any of that, there's actually this iceberg analogy where you've got 80% of the other stuff. You need to build the backend infrastructure, data pipeline, permissions, integration, compliance logic, like all the stuff that nobody really wants to work on, but is arguably some of the most important stuff when you're building strong foundations of an AI native business. And so what Synapsis is an API hub, an ecosystem, an app store, whatever you want to call it. And so it actually is a service that underpins all these other technologies that we build, like the 5-minute asset. finance application or the 5-minute home loan application. They're all powered by this underlying technology we call synapses. And you know, the core the theme with that product is that it reduces our internal tech debt, because we can now build front-end user interfaces to solve a new vertical, let's say insurance, and we just connect it to Synapses, and it has all this underlying infrastructure that's super robust, scalable, all that kind of stuff. But equally, other businesses external to ours can connect to that. And it is MCP enabled, and I will talk about that, but even this autocomplete engine, we'll dive into a bit more details. So here's what Synapses is. Synapses is an API ecosystem that anybody system, including our own, you know, our ALO or Halo technologies, can connect to either directly or via an MCP server, a model context protocol. And a model context protocol is something that Anthropic built. It's a standard or a unified language, if you will. It's not a language. It's probably not a great word, but like it's a simple and unified way for people to build agents that can communicate with tools. Everyone's heard AI agents. AI agents are totally useless unless they have access to tools, i.e., APIs to call, integrations to call on. And so our Synapses ecosystem is available in MCP, and that was a really important part for us. And it gives anybody who wants to access all of these back-end tools, like the OCR capabilities, like the credit decisioning, like the machine learning probability of approval models, fraud detection, you know, bank statement insights and analysis, which is a GenAI product. So we have access, we have all of that built in. So there's GenAI and AI use cases in Synapses. So there's one that's a AI-powered loan matching and autocomplete. So the AI loan matching, that part is a traditional AI solution, and then the autocomplete has components of both. One of them, obviously, of the autocomplete, there's an intelligent layer, a contextual engine that is a generative AI solution. There's credit education and financial well-being, so we can ingest a client's set of bank statements and give them recommendations based on, and I'll show like a visual of that, but essentially tell them, hey, you spend 30% more on Uber Eats than the rest of our clients. Would you consider, and then it will make a recommendation, would you consider using a meal prep company like Muscle Chef or something to lower your expenses and improve your budget? You know, so there's a whole range of stuff in there. So lender matching, OCR, AI models, the bank statement analysis and insights, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about OCR. So this is one of the most powerful tools for our business and has streamlined our client onboarding. You know, a traditional application allowed the client to provide ask the client to provide their name, their date of birth, their license number, their income, their expenses, their employer. Here, we're not asking the client to do any of that. We're just saying, give us a copy of your license or take a photo of it. We'll read and analyze it, contextualize it, and pre-fill that data. Give us a copy of your payslip that has most of the information that I need on there, and we'll pre-fill that for you. And then connect your bank statement through open banking or, you know, Ilion's bank statement service, and we'll get all of your income and expenses. And in the background, we'll run a credit report, a soft check, so we don't impact your credit score, and we'll pull in all of your credit file data, like which credit cards you have, which loans you have, so you don't have to pre-fill them. Okay. Yeah, so we can move through. I think most people know what OCR technology is, but there's that intelligence layer on top that is really, really important. And that is the difference between our OCR and most OCRs on the market, is how much effort and energy we've put into that intelligence layer that sits on top. And so the autocomplete contextual engine, that is this intelligence layer that I was talking about. You can give it any document. It understands the context that it appears in. It understands the fields that are available in front of it, and it can match, it can do calculations, it can do a whole range of other things to pre-fill that as best as possible for the client. So what it does is actually supercharge all the data interactions, enable smarter automation, and obviously you can get an agent to read a document, read something that has been provided, and then take actions accordingly. So you can auto-complete with context. You can have structured or unstructured data processing, and then obviously it's available in our MCP server as well. going to skip past some of this, conscious of time. I'm going to do a very quick live demo, and just so people can see this in action from a client's point of view, right? So I've got the wrong link there. Here we go. Here we go, Link Financial Group. All right, perfect. So we'd send the client through this home loan journey. We ask them if they want to buy or refinance, if they've already paid a deposit, or it's 12 months away. What is the purpose of the property? So let's just put in. I'm just going to make up an address here. Fingers crossed. That's not a relevant one. So let's go. Here we go. Grab one that is a valid address. It grabs the photos through a third-party integration on a property data. It gets the valuation of the property. So we're pre-filling all of that. They can adjust their deposit. They can adjust them weekly, fortnightly, monthly payments, do anything like that. We ask them what their priorities are in a loan, and that's going to inform, sort of how we can take action in the future. We ask them their employment type. Let's just say they're PAYG for this purpose. We confirm they are a real person via a secure SMS code to protect their data. We issue them, the consent and disclosure documents here. And then this is the 3-step process. So we ask the client to upload their driver's license. So I'm just going to do that. And we've got a pretend driver's license in here. Well, I mean, it's a real license, but it's a different name and stuff. So we've scanned that. As you can see in real time, it starts to pre-fill everything that's relevant to the client. Now, everything that it can grab from the ID, it will. Everything that it can't, it will leave a little exclamation mark here, like, we need to select the gender. We need to, put their citizenship status in, their marital status, how many dependent children they have. And for their address, we need to specify, are they mortgaging at that current address, and how long have they been there for? So that's that whole section complete. And then they can connect their bank account. So any bank that they have, it doesn't have to be a Big Four one, and that's either available through Ilion or through open banking, CDR. And it will, after they, complete the consent process or into their client details, it will pre-fill all of their income and all of their expenses. It will also detect any recurring payments and liabilities from the credit report and the bank statement and pre-fill them as well, right? And then the last part is for them to upload their payslip. And so if I just type payslip here, Sexy Dave, he has a payslip. Again, he's got a different name. Our dear friend. So 3 to 5 seconds, reads, analyzes, contextualizes the payslip, and then does everything that it needs to do, including detecting that it's not their most recent one contextually, and can prompt them to upload another. So let's just continue. But all of this information, where it is available on the payslip. So if their occupation is not on their payslip, obviously it can't pre-fill that. Classification not on their payslip can't pre-fill that. But that is how simple and how easy it is. So I'm going to return back. I just wanted to do that demo. That's how you can get down the client application down to sub 5 minutes and allow them to, have a much better user experience compared to the sort of more traditional thing. The AI agent BDM, I'm not going to spend too much time here because it's reasonably self-explanatory. We have a client that has a specific scenario. Our team will present that specific scenario and will tell them exactly which lender or which lenders can assist the client, and potentially what interest rate and things like that are going to be sort of payable. So we'll move on to the next part, which is where is AI going? Time horizons. We'll talk about the rise of agentic AI. If we get time, we'll talk about AGI, but maybe we'll leave that for the questions. I'm just conscious of time. So AI agents. There's some really important things to discuss here. Like I said before, Without tools, AI agents don't function. What is an AI agent? Essentially, it's an LLM with a set of instructions or a predefined prompt, and you can connect an AI agent to any LLM, right, or any other ML model, and then you've got instructions from a user, and then those AI agents will go and process, or there's an orchestration layer that will then go and do the task output. So AI agents have memory or storage for context. They have a retrieval mechanism. So some of you might have heard like RAG, retrieval augmentation. They require tools like APIs, functions, and databases to function. And they have those well-engineered prompts. But this is where people are super optimistic about automation, because it's proving to be quite good. Now, this is a task that I would like everybody to do. If you're trying to get into AI or build agents, the first thing you need to do is map out what that could look like in your business. Now, we've got like all these different agents in our business, right? And we've got a credit analyst agent, a serviceability agent, risk, compliance, settlements, retention, and a contact agent that kind of sits across all of them. But I would like for you to think about, okay, this is something that you need to put one foot in front of the other. It's a slow process. It could take 12, 18, 24 months for you to get this right, but you need to start at some point. So the best thing for you to do is to actually map out your entire company process map, every single section, every single small detail. Yes, it will take a while. Each department can kind of do their own, and you just do it in like a Miro board or something. And then identify which parts of the process are really sticky or lots of friction, and color code them red. And then identify parts that are like virtually frictionless and work really well, color code them green, and the ones that are sort of in the middle that, hey, there could be some improvements here, color code them orange, and pick the ones that are the lowest hanging fruit and try to connect an agent and build an agent around that, right? And so that's just the first step that you need to do. Once you've mapped this out, you can piece by piece, foot in front of the other, slowly automate parts of your business, or parts of your role, to improve the client experience or improve the back office processing capabilities. So MCP we spoke about. This is kind of how LLMs previously interacted with services. It was a unique API each time. The model context protocol that Anthropic announced was, like I said, it's a unified sort of approach to communicating with different tools. And so now those tools can build once to a model context protocol, and any LLM can talk through this unified API. What I think the future of businesses are going to look like, I think the future of businesses are going to have heads of departments, and they're going to have swarms or teams of AI agents sitting underneath them executing the task. But somebody's going to be the orchestrator. Somebody's going to be responsible for designing entire departments and the way that people interact with those departments and the way that departments interact with each other and things like that. And so there's a gentleman that posted an AI org chart on LinkedIn, as posted this here as an example, but you've got, logistics and enablement director, outreach director, you've got all these kind of things, and then agents sitting underneath them. And it's just to visualize that. Won't talk too much about this. We'll get straight to Q&A, leave as much time for that. If we have more time or people want to know more about what I think about AGI and other things, then I can get to that. But I can already see there's quite a few questions.
That's amazing. Thanks, Julian. Appreciate it going through that much content within such a short amount of time. Yeah, we do have a lot of questions. Maybe we'll just start from the top and going through. Do you want to read it out, or do you want to just go straight in?
Okay, I'll go to the top. Okay, yeah. So what are third-party integrations Credit Checks is used to build the current state of the product? So it's different for asset finance as it is for property data. So for example, on the asset finance side, we have an integration with a company called Glass Guide, which provides valuations on cars, and we can do the rego lookup. So instead of having the client select, 2024 model Toyota Corolla, and do it one by one, they're just putting the rego number, and it does a reverse lookup to bring in all the vehicle details. So that's one. Equifax and Ilion for credit bureau, Creditor Watch for commercial credit bureau. That's about it in terms of third part. Ilion bank statements. and then we have a consumer data right open banking integration as well. The rest of it is built in-house. So our credit decisioning framework, our machine learning model, those are all proprietary in-house. Our OCR technology, proprietary in-house, autocomplete engine, all that stuff is proprietary, but those are the third-party ones. So yeah.
Got it. Actually, I have a question as well. I mean, just curious, because you mentioned about the, how your own credit sort of a decisioning engine was based on all those lenders' credit policies, right? So you kind of reverse engineer that. So how do you keep the data? I mean, like, was that by APIs, or how do you keep those sort of a credit policy data up to date?
No, that's a fairly manual process, but we have a team of policy analysts that are responsible for getting the new and updated credit policies, liaising with the lenders' credit teams, and it forms a very significant part of our moat, if you want to call it that. So it's not an easy process, but I guess that's why we the product that we deliver to the customer actually adds a significant amount of value. So yeah, it is a manual process, but we have the ability to build custom rule sets. So if they do change it, it could be a few business days, and then the new credit policy goes live. But generally speaking, we have an inside track with those lenders. We've got really good relationships with them. Before their credit policy goes live, they give us the new one. We build it and have it sort of on the side until the launch date might be, call it 1st of September, and then on the 1st of September we switch out the old credit policy and the new credit policy.
Oh, impressive.
Benjamin said, how do you verify, validate that the applicant's uploaded credentials are true? So one of the things about having a client fill out online forms manually, and one of the frustration points for us leading to flipping the process on its head, is that they often fill it out incorrectly. And that's very, very common. And we end up having to go back in that traditional model and, basically redo the application over the phone with the client. When we're actually using the source documents and data and third-party integrations, there isn't any of that issue. So they sometimes spell their name wrong. Like they'll write Mick instead of Michael, and their license says Michael. And so then the credit check can't run because, the name's not accurate and things like that. But if we're actually just asking them to upload the license, well, then we know that it's going to be 100% accurate or extremely close to that. Every now and again, they'll upload a very, very bodgy photo, or there's a big shadow covering something, or their fingers covering the expiry date or the date of birth or something like that. You can't say 100%, but, assuming they uploaded even a decent quality, it doesn't have to be a high resolution image, a decent quality, decent visibility image, we're going to get that 100% of the time right. Payslip, that is the document, and we have some fraud checks built into our OCR and that intelligence layer I was talking about. It can actually calculate the mathematics on the payslip to make sure that they haven't, had a rounding error or something like that in making a fake payslip. We check for multiple fonts. We check for alignment and formatting issues. We check that the super is calculated correctly, etc. And then bank statements, we're getting it directly from the bank, so we don't have any issues there. Credit file, we're getting directly from the third party. So I hope that answers.
Yeah, for the fraud one, like, are you guys using third-party sort of a tools to do that, or have you built your own sort of in your house?
For which part? Sorry,
for fraud detection stuff. Like, was that in your house, or did you guys use third-party?
Yeah, the payslip one is in house. We use a third party for other fraud detection tools like device fingerprinting and detecting IP clusters for repeat offenders. We use Persona for that. They have a really cool tool for that, but that's a different story. That's when somebody, that's nothing to do with assessing a document. It's more just looking at if the same person is submitting applications with different identities, stolen identities from the same IP address or same group of IP addresses, and it can link them, etc. So yeah, some of it's in-house, the fraud detection stuff. Some of it is external, specialty stuff like Persona. QQ, hey Julian, curious about bank statement scores analyzed from several sample bank statements provided by the client, or can you use API to scan the client's transactions? How could you validate the bank statement score is trustworthy? So we have in our history, I don't know the exact number, but it's tens of thousands, maybe even close to 100,000 customer bank statements. And so when those data sets come in, they get de-identified. But we have an idea on the outcome of those bank statements. So this type of bank statement conduct, i.e. income, expenses, dishonors, gambling, the types of subscriptions they have, etc. We have that data and we can predict with a very high sort of accuracy whether or not they're going to lead to a settlement, or lead to a decline, or lead to whatever it is, the outcome that we're trying to predict. And so when we get the bank statements, we get it in multiple formats. One is easy to read, like a PDF that our brokers can look at. But more important than that, we receive it in a JSON format. And so we can get the bank data in a JSON format and then run programmatic things across it to scan the bank statement and look for certain things. So how do we validate the bank statement score is trustworthy? Well, we test it in-house. So the unique thing about our business, and one of the reasons why people love our technology, is we're not just a tech company. We actually have the client-facing B2C business that validates all of our technology. So everything that before we license it to the market, we have the B2C validation. We've tested these tools on our own customers before we expect anybody else to test them on theirs. So we validate that the bank statement score is trustworthy by, testing it on our real clients' data. Like, is there, let's say, a bank statement score is really high, and then, which would indicate that, the client's can get a successful outcome, but then the client is declined for poor bank statement conduct. Well, then we know there's something wrong with the model. And so we then get a large data set and retrain the model or fine tune the model if we need to. And those models are our own proprietary models. It's not like using a GenAI or, some off the shelf thing. Do I see benefits in CDR? Darren asked. To be honest with you, CDR is not ready. It will help our process, absolutely. Data quality, the timeouts that we sometimes get on very large clients that have heaps of bank accounts, things like that with the Ilion servers. Not bagging Ilion. Ilion's a great partner of ours, but there are some problems with that sort of screen scraping solution. And so CDR certainly will help our business, and it will improve the quality of the data. It'll improve the consent flow, a whole range of things. But I think it definitely does help improve our process. GenAI, that's not a question, it's a statement. Question, would you share some key learnings you wish you had when you first adopted AI within your business? Just share newcomers who are adopting AI in their business now. So I'll tell you a real story. I was so bullish on AI so early. In fact, I was too bullish. I'll tell you a story. This is an actual specific example. I thought that we weren't going to need any credit rules. I thought that our AI was going to get so good so fast that we wouldn't need to have all these policy analysts talking about that manual process that Kurt raised. I thought we were going to be able to very easily and very simply just train a model, and it would be so accurate that even if the lender changed their credit policy, like, it's going to quickly learn and away you go. Now, I was in for a rude shock because when you're trying to train, there's different types of AI models, but there's like binary classification models. So it's just like a true false sort of a prediction. And then there's a multi-class classification model. And so those you need much, much more data. And that's essentially what we were training in the early days. But there was a situation where we thought a decent level of accuracy from the AI model. And then one of the lenders made a significant change to their credit policy. And it was Wiser, which is a well-known fintech. And they went from their casual employment policy was minimum 9 months in casual employment before they would consider the applicant to 4 months. Now, that's a significant change. And what ended up happening is when we started doing some testing, it wasn't recommending Wiser for clients that had 4 months casual employment. And so the real issue that we discovered there is that the next best lender for that type of client was much higher on the interest rate. So the margin for error there was huge in not doing the right thing by the customer. So thankfully, we never actually fully relied on AI. We had a combination of our brokers that review the file, our credit rules engine, our credit decisioning engine, and AI. And that's like a combination approach to try and get the best outcome from the client to ensure that, because even our humans can miss something sometimes, right? So it's not bagging on AI or otherwise, but I was so bullish on AI that I thought that wasn't going to be an issue and it was going to learn much quicker than it did. but you need huge data sets. And when you have niche examples like that, where clients a certain amount of employment and casual, like it actually is not that frequently that you come across these sort of niche examples. And so how do you, for people that are new to it, make sure that the way you structure your data is AI friendly. So get somebody who knows what they're doing to set up your database, and any sort of data that you will keep. Make sure that it's categorized properly. Like make sure that the fields are hard, like have validation. That the fields have validation. So if it's a number field, make sure it only accepts numbers. If it's a text field, and say it's unstructured data, that's going to be way harder to get really good results from. Where possible, try and make as much of your data structured as possible. And sometimes that's not possible, but for example, if it's a free text field, you might turn it into a structured field by saying, is data entered in this field, yes or no? Because that might be thing. There's also other biases that you need to be aware of, and sometimes it is signal and sometimes it is noise. I'll give you another example. We started detecting what we thought was a bias in the data, where somebody who was buying a Toyota was actually more likely to get approved from another OEM. And I was saying, how could that possibly, like, that's not even a real thing. How could that be possible? And so we started really interrogating the data. But it turns out that it's not just the fact that they were buying a Toyota. There's other correlating factors that a Toyota buyer has. And so, usually Toyota as a brand is associated with reliability, stability. They're not really the sort of brand that's associated with the most innovation or the most. And so the people who buy Toyotas are naturally very stable people. So they had really stable employment. They were looking for consistency, reliability in all areas of their life. And so yeah, so that's another example. Be very careful about what is signal and what is noise. Don't always discount everything as AI bias, but also be very careful of it because it can skew your data as well. Yeah, so I hope that was good. Then there was how to gain a good speed of AI adoption with new business development practice tools. So understand that there is a process. So how do you get momentum in your business is kind of the question I'm answering here. Make sure everyone feels comfortable with what it is that the goals of the business are. Make sure everyone buys into why AI is going to be great for the business. So in our business, like selling it to our brokers as though like, hey, the AI is going to help you settle more loans and therefore you'll become more efficient and therefore you'll earn more money. And so like there's real world examples of that. The average finance broker in the industry might settle 20, 15 loans per month. A really good one will settle 25. Top 1% will settle 30. One of our brokers settled 54 loans in 1 month. And so getting people to understand like what this actually means for them, because sometimes people feel threatened by it, but it's like, if this can give you back more time, what would you use that extra time for? Distill it. Not everybody's technical. Not everybody's going to know how to use NAN or LangChain or how to build agents. But everybody can draw a process map. So let them start by contributing and say, listen, I want you to draw your process map and I want you to do that traffic light system. Color code which parts of the process you kind of hate and that are quite clunky, red, and green for the things that you think are pretty easy and flow straight through. And set a target. And it could just be something as simple as automate one repetitive task per month. Low target, not a lot of pressure. Start, generate momentum. As people get more and more comfortable with these tools, that will accelerate. But don't say, yeah, we're going to automate the whole back office process and we're going to start tomorrow and it's all got to be done by Friday. Like that's not going to work. It's good to get people to understand that these automations take time and yeah, if you can afford to hire an external party to come and do a process review, then do that, because they're not then bogged down with the day-to-day minutia of actually being in the business as well. Yeah, how are you managing different compliance points in terms of privacy, consent, credit assessment for different scenarios, commercial, consumer, integrated with Equifax, for example, or do you rebuild all these workflows yourself? So, Harika, yes, we are integrated with Equifax for credit bureaus. We have a privacy consent flow for all the different scenarios. We have the different compliance and disclosure documents that surface to the client at the exact right time every single time. So that's all good. There's a very important thing that we didn't really discuss, which is data integrity and security. We're ISO 27001 certified, and so we have gone through that process, and we've got partnerships with major institutions. So we go through rigorous cybersecurity testing. We do penetration testing. We do a whole range of other things as well ourselves, without being told to, because we care about that. Also, any sensitive data is not sent into LLMs. Any secure customer information is not sent into LLMs. We have an enterprise account with all the LLM companies, and all of them have a do not retain. We have a certificate from each of them that says that there's zero data retention. And where possible, we structure API calls to automatically terminate stuff that it doesn't need. So we're never carrying more data than we need, because that creates vulnerabilities, or it creates a gold mine for somebody to try and penetrate. So, yeah. Where are we? Is ACE powered by GenAI tech? Yeah. So autocomplete engine. There's, depending on which part of it it's using, some of it is not GenAI, because GenAI is not very good at mathematics. So there is some traditional AI in there, but then there is to add context and to add some reasoning capabilities, GenAI is used there. Yep, sharing the recording. Benjamin, exactly. An AI agent is essentially a doer in your business. Like give it a task, it'll orchestrate the task. You need to give it instructions, and you need to give it tools to be able to orchestrate and complete those tasks. But yeah, that's a good way to describe it. We will see the AI agent that can initiate credit model identifying new variable by itself. What conditions will enable this scenario? So I'm not really going to be relying on an AI agent to train a new credit model, depending on which credit model you're talking about. I think for the moment, there are already a significant amount of tools that the cloud providers give you to sort of continue to optimize and improve your credit models. And you can do back testing, you can do a whole range of other things. But I think for the moment, an AI agent is just using an LLM. So I don't think you're really going to want to train an agent, which is just an LLM, to go and try and improve it. I think over time they will get better, but if any of you have used vibe coding tools, they're not that great yet. Compared to senior engineers, maybe compared to a junior, they're delivering decent results, but not really.
I think that was the last question. Yeah, from what I can tell. Oh wait, hold on. I think. More. Are you using an agent
there's
for
a couple
risk
more.
compliance?
Are you using AI agents for risk compliance? Example, APRA is a bank regulator, but ASIC is our regulator, and yes, absolutely, we use. We have a compliance agent. It checks. It's more like an internal audit. We still pay an external audit company to oversee all of that and make sure, but it's like a good fail-safe detector within our own business to detect things, as they happen, or potentially preemptively detect things in some situations. But yeah, absolutely, we're using it for that. It doesn't, let me be clear. When it comes to really important things like risk compliance, it's not smart to just rely on these tools by itself. I'm certainly not comfortable. We have a credit license, and we have some strict obligations around responsible lending and things like that. So we want to use these tools to make our team more efficient. But I don't think ASIC would be really happy if we just sort of absolved ourselves of any responsibility and blamed it on an agent if something went wrong. Certainly that's not the intention there. So I think that's pretty important to cover. And then there's one that says from Shonat, if you can answer what tools you use to process your workflow. So look, we've used a whole range of others. So like Relevance AI is a great one that's quite user friendly. N8N is great. We use that a lot in our business. We did build initially when agents, when there wasn't a lot of great user interfaces to this stuff. We built straight in LangChain. We've done different things. Yeah, I mean, ultimately you've got to find what works for your business. N8N's, I think, very capable, so that's a good place to start. If you're prepared to pay a little bit more for a better user experience, then Relevance is a great idea. A great solution as well. I've met the founder. He's doing some great stuff in Australia and across the world. So yeah, I think they're all great tools. But yeah, write that down: Relevance.ai, N8N, any other tools that we use.
Yeah, I think Relevance is Aussie business, right? I mean, I think at least they're based in Sydney, aren't they? Relevance.
Yeah, they're based in Sydney. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, there you go. So support Aussie business, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I do believe that's the last question. So yeah, so thank you, Julian, for patiently answering all the questions and giving us a fantastic talk. I think on behalf of everyone, I couldn't thank you enough. That was very, very insightful. But of course, before we finish, I think maybe part of the reason why everyone want to stay back is it's one of the very important section of tonight's events, which is choosing two winners. So Julian, I'll give that opportunity to you to pick two winners tonight for our, you can call lucky draw or lucky winners. Yeah.
I think Benjamin, and sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Is it Shanat? I think they had like multiple questions, lots of really good questions as well. I think those two.
Perfect. I think I can see is that Jeanette, right? Yeah, I can see Jeanette and then also Ben on screen. I think Ben, I got your email. Jeanette, I don't know if I have your email, but I did send all of you guys an email earlier today. So if you can just reply to me, because I think I will need the email to send that digital gift card to you guys, or the digital Visa card to you guys. If you can just give me your email after, so I can send that to you guys shortly.
Amazing. Cool. Well, just quickly before we wrap up, I do want to say thank you. I know it's quite late for people, and you're taking time out of family time or rest time. So I'm grateful that so many of you showed up and cared what I had to say. If I'm pretty easy to find. If you just connect with me on LinkedIn, if you have any other follow-up questions or anything like that you remember later tonight, always happy to help. Just shoot me a DM. Thank you.
I just want to say thanks very much. I think Julian and Kurt and Julian, it's extremely impressive. And yeah, just in terms of how you've described all your approaches, there's been a lot of learning for me. So thanks very much, and thanks Kurt for bringing Julian to this session.
Yeah. This is actually part of the reason why I'm doing this, because I meet people like Julian, very inspirational, but at the same time, very practical, give us a lot of really, really good practical tips for us to actually start from tomorrow. I think we can do all the things that he mentioned from tomorrow onwards. So start doing it, guys, right? Cool. Yeah. I know it's getting late. So I will get the recording for you guys and I'll send to you all of you guys as soon as the recording is getting uploaded. So thank you for joining. Make sure you tune in. I'll be sending you guys notifications for the next event. I think in one of our upcoming one, which is really interesting because the founder, he's also like GenAI founder. So he actually created a protocol, almost like competing with MCP. The stuff that Julian mentioned earlier. So he actually created his own protocol to compete with MCP. So stay tuned for that one. That's probably in the next month or two. That one is coming up as well. So thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
Bye, guys.